When you look at the world closely, you will notice something peculiar. Those who are the loudest, those who protest every slight, those who wear their heart on their sleeve, are often the ones who suffer the most. They are manipulated, provoked, dragged into conflicts they did not choose, and in the end, they are remembered not for their power but for their fragility. The world does not reward fragility. It exploits it, and yet most people live their entire lives at the mercy of their emotions. They are controlled not by strategy but by feeling, not by discipline but by impulse. That is why the art of not caring, the art of appearing and becoming emotionless, has always been the weapon of the strategist, the shield of the ruler, the cloak of the Machiavellian. Make no mistake, when I speak of not caring, I do not mean apathy in the simple sense, the dull emptiness of someone who feels nothing at all. That is not power, that is numbness, and numbness is weakness disguised as detachment. No, the cold art of not caring is deliberate. It is conscious. It is a performance so convincing that even you begin to believe it. It is not the absence of feeling but the mastery of it, the ability to wield silence like a blade, indifference like a fortress, and composure like a crown. People will tell you to be authentic, to express yourself, to let the world know your truth. But understand this, the more you express, the more you reveal. The more you reveal, the easier you are to control. A single confession, a single uncontrolled display of anger or hurt, and you hand the map of your weaknesses to those who will not hesitate to use it against you. The man who truly holds power is not the man who rages when insulted, but the man who sits still, unmoved, as if the insult never landed. This is not because he is blind to disrespect. It is because he understands that by not caring, or at least by appearing not to care, he turns the insult into a mirror that reflects only the insecurity of the one who spoke it. Consider this. A rival mocks you in public, hoping to spark your fury. Most men take the bait. They snap back, raising their voice, and in that moment, they look smaller, not larger. But imagine instead you allow a small smile, a pause long enough to stretch into discomfort, and then you continue as if nothing was said. Who looks weak now? The mocker, desperate for a reaction that never came. The room shifts in your favor not because you fought, but because you refused to play. That is the essence of the cold art of not caring. To remain untouchable, to deny others the pleasure of pulling your strings. Human beings are wired to test each other. We probe, we push, we search for cracks in one another's armor. Disrespect, sarcasm, indifference. These are not random acts. They are small experiments, questions posed without words. Can I get under your skin? Can I control your mood? Every time you flinch, every time you defend, every time you rush to prove yourself, you answer yes. And once that answer is given, they will not stop testing. But if your answer is silence, composure, even a faint look of amusement, the test ends abruptly. They realize you are not a subject to be toyed with, but an obstacle to be avoided. It is difficult at first. The blood rises quickly, the face warms, the chest tightens. You feel the urge to fight back, to prove your worth in the moment of challenge. But that is precisely why the Machiavellian separates himself from the herd. He delays. He waits. He lets the fire inside him cool into strategy before he acts, if he acts at all. The weak believe not caring means feeling nothing. The strong know it means feeling everything and showing nothing. Think of the general in war. If he panics at the first sign of trouble, the army collapses. If he shows fear on his face, the soldiers lose faith. The art of not caring is leadership. It is control over yourself first, and therefore control over others. For men follow those who remain unshaken when everyone else trembles. But let us not romanticize. To become emotionless is not easy. It requires training. You must practice in the small moments before you can master the great ones. Start with the daily insults, the petty remarks, the small exclusions. When a friend forgets to invite you, do not show disappointment. When a stranger cuts you off on the road, do not curse. When a colleague tries to overshadow you, do not rush to reclaim the spotlight. Each time you resist, you build another layer of armor. Over time, the cold art becomes second nature. Do not mistake this for weakness or passivity. On the contrary, by not caring visibly, you create room to choose your strategy carefully. You are not retreating, you are positioning. For example, a man interrupts you during a conversation. Most people either stop speaking or talk louder to compete. The cold strategist does neither. He pauses, looks calmly at the interrupter, and then continues when silence returns. That single gesture communicates power more than any shouted words could. To not care is to understand that the world is a theater. Everyone is performing, and most are desperate for applause. They poke at you not to hurt you, but to draw you into their performance, to make you part of their play. When you refuse, when you do not care enough to participate, you rob them of their stage. Suddenly, their act falls apart, and they stand exposed, desperate for an audience that no longer exists. You must also realize that caring is expensive. Every drop of emotion you spend is a coin given to someone else. When you rage, you pay them. When you beg for understanding, you pay them. When you cry, you pay them. By not caring, by holding your currency close, you make yourself richer while they grow poorer in their failed attempts to provoke you. This is why those who master the art of indifference often rise higher than the passionate, because passion without discipline is poverty, while control without display is wealth. The Machiavellian does not care in public, but in private he observes. He remembers every insult, every betrayal, every slight. He records them not to weep over them, but to calculate when the time is right to strike back, or to decide that no strike is necessary because silence already achieved more than vengeance could. This is the deeper layer. Not caring is not just performance, it is weaponization. You turn the lack of visible reaction into a tool that forces the other side into confusion. They expect anger and get calm. They expect pain and get indifference. They expect defense and get silence. They do not know what to do with you anymore. And when people cannot predict you, they fear you. Let me make it clear. Fear is not always built from aggression. Often it is built from mystery. And nothing is more mysterious than the man who does not react when everyone else would. The one who seems beyond insult, beyond manipulation, beyond control. He appears untouchable, and in appearing untouchable, he becomes untouchable. That is the paradox of the cold art. It begins as performance but becomes reality. So when I tell you to master the art of not caring, I am not telling you to kill your humanity. I am telling you to weaponize it. To hold your emotions in chains and release them only when they serve you, never when they betray you. Caring is a choice, not an obligation. And the fewer choices others can predict about you, the more. The cold art of not caring demands a shift in how you see the world. Most people believe life is about fairness, justice, and recognition. They cry when they are overlooked. They complain when they are treated unfairly. They burn with resentment when others succeed. But the Machiavellian knows better. He knows the world is not fair, has never been fair, and will never be fair. And because he knows this, he does not waste time demanding fairness. He operates above it. To not care is to stop expecting the world to hand you what you want. To not care is to stop believing that people owe you anything at all. That alone will make you freer than 90% of humanity, for they are still shackled by their expectations. Observe how expectations create suffering. A man believes his friend should always be loyal, and when betrayal comes, he collapses. A woman believes her partner should always understand her, and when misunderstanding arises, she drowns in tears. A worker believes his boss should always reward him, and when the promotion goes elsewhere, he boils with rage. All of this suffering comes not from reality, but from caring too much about how reality should be. The cold strategist cares less about how things should be and more about how things are. He does not expect loyalty. He prepares for betrayal. He does not expect understanding. He accepts confusion. He does not expect reward. He builds strength so that, rewarded or not, he still rises. Take the example of Julius Caesar. He was betrayed by those closest to him. Why? Because he allowed them to believe he cared too much about their loyalty. He placed too much value on their friendship, and so when they turned, his heart cracked before his body fell. A colder man would have cared less about their companionship and more about the inevitability of envy. He would have built his circle as one builds a wall, stone by stone, without sentiment, without illusion, and with the knowledge that even the strongest wall can be breached. The art of not caring is not heartlessness. It is foresight sharpened by detachment. But let me be precise. Not caring does not mean neglecting ambition, neglecting relationships, or neglecting survival. It means you pursue all of these things with clarity, not desperation. It means you move toward your goals without being enslaved by the opinions of others. Imagine two men working toward the same vision. One cares deeply about being liked. He tailors every move to the approval of the crowd. The other remains indifferent to applause or criticism. He acts as strategy demands, not as popularity requires. Which man will last longer? Which man will command more fear, more respect? It is never the man addicted to approval. His leash is always held by someone else's hand. The cold strategist is not addicted to anything, not approval, not revenge, not even comfort. He uses them all when they serve him but discards them when they threaten to control him. This makes him dangerous, because the easiest way to control another person is to threaten what they care about most. Threaten the family of a sentimental man, and he bends. Threaten the reputation of a prideful man, and he crumbles. Threaten the wealth of a greedy man, and he obeys. But threaten the man who has mastered not caring. What can you take from him? His wealth? He has already accepted poverty. His reputation? He has already embraced silence. His comfort? He has already trained in hardship. The man who does not care cannot be ruled. And yet, this art is not to be flaunted recklessly. Do not announce to the world, "I don't care." That is another form of caring, caring to prove that you are above caring. Silence is stronger. Indifference is believable only when it is natural, not proclaimed. If you truly do not care, it will show in your actions. When someone tries to provoke you, your calm will reveal it. When someone tries to seduce you with flattery, your unmoved face will betray it. When someone tries to intimidate you, your steady gaze will confirm it. You do not need to declare that you are beyond reach. The absence of reaction will make the statement for you. Let us speak of insults again, for insults are the cheapest currency of the weak. They throw them not to wound but to fish for your reaction. A man who is secure, who has mastered himself, sees an insult as a gust of wind. It touches him but does not move him. A man without mastery sees an insult as a sword piercing his flesh. The difference is not in the insult but in the care given to it. If you give none, the insult dies unheard. If you give much, it becomes a scar you carry forever. Even in love, the art of not caring is vital. Most people believe love is the surrender of control, the total giving of the self to another. And yet, look at those who do this. They become desperate, insecure, jealous, and ultimately unattractive. Love without control is slavery. But love with discipline, love with cold detachment is a weapon. You give affection, but never your entire soul. You remain capable of walking away, even in the height of passion. That is why the Machiavellian lover is irresistible, because he does not drown in love. He sails it like a ship, steering where he wishes, never sinking even when storms rage. Some will say this is cruelty, but cruelty is to make promises you cannot keep, to play with hearts you do not respect. Cold detachment is not cruelty, it is clarity. It allows you to engage without deceiving yourself, to remain whole even when others collapse. If you do not care excessively, you will not betray excessively, and you will not cling when the time has come to part. That is why detachment is not only a tool of war and politics but of relationships. It protects both you and the other. But let us go deeper. Why does caring make us weak? Because caring blinds. A man who cares too much about his pride will fight battles he cannot win just to defend his ego. A man who cares too much about money will risk his life in foolish ventures. A man who cares too much about status will kneel before anyone who can offer it. To care is to chain yourself, and the more chains you have, the easier it is for others to pull them. The cold strategist begins by breaking these chains one by one. Start small. Next time you feel insulted, ask yourself, what happens if I simply do not respond? Next time you crave recognition, ask, what if I let silence be my reward? Next time you fear loss, ask, what if I accept that loss before it arrives? These small acts build the muscle of indifference. And in time, that muscle becomes armor so thick that no sword can pierce it. History is littered with men destroyed by their inability to master this art. Kings who cared too much about glory and so overreached until they lost their crown. Generals who cared too much about vengeance and so marched into traps set by calmer minds. Lovers who cared too much about affection and so surrendered their dignity. Do not join their ranks. Learn from their downfall. See that the greatest victories are often won not by fighting but by refusing to be moved. But here is the paradox. Once you learn not to care, you gain the ability to choose what to care about. Because detachment frees you from chains, you can now attach yourself deliberately. You may choose to care about your vision, your empire, your principles, but you will never be enslaved by them. You own them. They do not own you. That is the highest form of freedom. So train yourself. When the world provokes you, let your silence be your shield. When temptation whispers, let your indifference be your answer. When insult strikes, let your calm be your counterattack. This is not cowardice. It is a strategy older than empires, sharper than swords, colder than ice. It is the art of becoming untouchable. It is the Machiavellian way. To master the cold art of not caring, you must first understand one fundamental truth about human nature. People are emotional creatures, and emotion is the lever by which they control one another. From birth, humans are trained to react to praise and punishment, to crave approval, to fear rejection. This wiring is a trap for the untrained mind, for it makes you predictable, manipulable, and weak. The Machiavellian, by contrast, observes this wiring not to be ensnared by it, but to exploit its absence in himself. He becomes the exception to the rule, the man who refuses to dance to the music of impulse. Others burn with desire or anger. He burns quietly, calculating the steps of the next move. Imagine a scenario. A colleague speaks behind your back, spreading rumors, hoping to provoke a reaction that will justify their dominance. Most men confront. Most men plead. Most men fight in the arena of emotion and lose before the battle even begins. But the man who has mastered not caring does something different. He continues with his work, quietly observing, letting the rumor lose its power over him and waiting. Because when the moment is right, he does not respond with rage, he responds with precision. He addresses the issue only when it maximizes leverage, and when he does, it is not defensive, it is commanding. The offense has already been disarmed by indifference. Caring too much binds you to the whims of others. When your ego insists on acknowledgement, you surrender your freedom. When your pride demands retaliation, you hand over control. When your fear requires reassurance, you barter your sovereignty for comfort. Not caring or appearing not to care dissolves these binds. You begin to move through life with a clarity that others cannot comprehend. Your silence becomes your ally. Your calm becomes your shield. Your composure becomes a signal that you are not to be trifled with. Even in negotiations, the man who does not care holds the upper hand. Consider a merchant negotiating a deal. The desperate merchant offers concessions, smiles too brightly, frets over terms. The calm merchant offers none of these things. He shows no visible attachment to the outcome. The deal does not define him, and in that, he gains power. The other side, sensing a lack of desperation, yields more than they planned, revealing their own insecurities. Indifference is not emptiness. It is leverage. By caring less, you gain more. But indifference must be genuine. Pretending not to care while secretly burning with anger is a recipe for disaster. People smell insecurity. They see hesitation. They sense the dissonance between appearance and feeling. The true Machiavellian aligns his inner world with his outer presentation. He trains himself to feel without being moved, to think without being shaken, to act without being controlled by impulse. This is why discipline is the foundation of not caring. Without discipline, indifference is a mask that cracks under pressure. With discipline, indifference becomes an impenetrable armor. Now, let us speak of betrayal, for it is the acid test of this art. People betray not only out of malice but out of curiosity, testing who can be manipulated. If you care too much, you are exposed. If you panic, you are defeated. But the cold strategist watches. He notes the betrayal, catalogs it, and reframes it as information. Who betrayed, how, and why becomes data, not drama. And in this data, he finds opportunity. By not caring in the immediate moment, he keeps the upper hand. When he chooses to act, it is not reaction, it is execution. Precision replaces emotion, and power replaces loss. Consider the great conquerors, Alexander, Napoleon, Caesar. Each faced betrayal countless times. Yet those who survived and thrived were those who did not allow emotion to dictate their response. They assessed, they measured, they calculated. When betrayal came, it was absorbed, processed, and used. Rage is wasted energy. Pain is a distraction. Only strategy matters. And strategy is born from detachment, from the ability to care selectively, and from the mastery of one's inner world. Even in matters of public opinion, not caring is lethal. The mob expects outrage, tears, defensiveness. When you refuse to give them this spectacle, they are disarmed. They do not know how to engage with a man who will not perform for their judgment. Consider a political leader who ignores slander, who does not respond to every tweet, who does not engage in every argument. His silence is louder than protest. His calm is more terrifying than rage. By refusing to care about the noise, he elevates himself above it, turning the crowd's energy into irrelevant background static. And there is beauty in this detachment. It is not coldness in the sense of cruelty, but clarity. By choosing what to invest your attention in, you conserve energy, sharpen focus, and achieve results others cannot imagine. While men waste their days agonizing over insults, losses, and slights, the man who does not care channels all of his attention into the arenas that truly matter. His vision, his empire, his legacy. This is not apathy. This is efficiency at the highest level. But beware, for this art is misunderstood. Many mistake it for arrogance, callousness, or emotional unavailability. And perhaps in the eyes of the naive, it is all these things. But the Machiavellian does not need validation from the naive. He does not seek approval from the weak. His indifference is a measure of sovereignty. It is a declaration. I answer to no one except myself, and my power is defined by no one but my own judgment. Even in love, detachment is power. Most people give too much, and in giving, they lose. A man who loves without surrender, who maintains his boundaries, who remains composed when others are frantic, is irresistible. Because his affection is not desperate, it is deliberate. He chooses where to invest, when to engage, and when to withdraw. To care without control is slavery. To care with mastery is strategy. And consider loss. Life is loss. Friends will betray, lovers will leave, fortunes will vanish. Those who care too much collapse under the weight of this inevitability. The cold strategist anticipates loss, prepares for it, and when it comes, meets it with equanimity. He grieves silently, learns quickly, and moves forward. Others are shackled by what they have lost. He is liberated by what he never needed in the first place. The art of not caring also extends to criticism. People will judge you, demean you, and attempt to shape your self-image. Most react, most defend, most crumble. The strategist hears criticism as information, not condemnation. He filters it, discards what is irrelevant, and absorbs what serves his purpose. He does not care about approval. He cares about accuracy, efficiency, and leverage. By separating the noise from the signal, he turns judgment into fuel rather than poison. Finally, the pinnacle of this art is invisibility. When you do not care, when you refuse to react, you become unpredictable. Others cannot manipulate you because they do not know what you value, what you fear, or what you desire most. You are a shadow moving through the crowd, unseen, untouchable, unstoppable. And in this invisibility lies power, because power is often less about domination and more about being ungraspable, being free, being sovereign. Now, let us explore the discipline required to maintain such detachment. For the art of not caring is not innate, it is forged. Every day presents temptations to react. A harsh word, an unfair criticism, a challenge to your authority. The untrained man snaps, pleads, argues, or seeks validation. The trained man pauses, observes, and acts only when it serves strategy. This discipline is like a muscle. It must be exercised continuously. The moment you stop, the chains of emotion begin to tighten once again. Begin with the small things. When someone cuts you off in traffic, do not honk or yell. Observe instead. Watch their behavior, imagine their possible motivations, and allow your calm to remain intact. When a colleague undermines you in a meeting, do not respond with defensiveness. Let your silence speak. When a friend seeks to provoke jealousy or insecurity, do not feed the fire. Each of these small victories builds your resistance, creating a foundation upon which greater indifference can be constructed. The cold strategist is like a general on the battlefield of life. He knows that emotion clouds judgment, and that rash action often leads to ruin. The man who reacts out of anger or fear hands over the map of his mind to the enemy. The man who pauses, who calculates, who acts only with precision, holds the map in his own hands. And with this map, he navigates the chaos of human interactions with the confidence of one who knows that every reaction is an investment, and every pause is power. Even in victory, he remains composed. For most men, victory is an opportunity to celebrate, to boast, to seek recognition. The Machiavellian sees victory differently. Victory is a tool, not a display. It consolidates position, signals capability, and enhances leverage. It is never about proving worth, because worth is never measured by applause. It is measured by influence, by control, by the ability to shape outcomes while remaining untouched by the chaos around you. Let us examine ambition. Most people tie their self-worth to the attainment of goals. They care so deeply about the results that every obstacle, every critique, every delay shakes them. The strategist understands that true power lies not in the attachment to outcomes but in mastery over oneself. He pursues goals with intensity but without desperation. He invests in the journey, not the validation it brings. And in this detachment, he achieves not only success but freedom. For attachment to results is a cage. Detachment is a sky without boundaries. Consider envy. The envious see the achievements of others and burn with desire. They care too much about comparison, and in this obsession, they weaken themselves. The cold strategist, however, does not envy. He observes, learns, and adapts. Others' success is not a threat. It is data. By refusing to care about status games and recognition, he transcends them. He is never a pawn in another's scheme because he does not desire the same tokens that bind them. He does not chase power the way the weak do. He claims it because he is prepared, patient, and above all, untethered. Now, let us confront the misconception that not caring is passive. It is not. It is active, deliberate, and commanding. When a man refuses to react, he is not surrendering, he is calculating. When a woman maintains her composure in the face of provocation, she is not weak. She is choosing the terrain. Every pause, every measured glance, every silent withdrawal is a statement of authority. The world interprets action as power, but the Machiavellian understands that an action, when chosen strategically, communicates more. Silence can cut deeper than the sharpest blade. Indifference can dismantle reputations faster than any scandal. Composure can dominate spaces that anger could never hold. Even in negotiation, indifference is weaponized. The man who does not care about concessions, the woman who does not cling to approval, shifts the balance of power. Those who seek advantage must bend to the calm, for it reveals a mind unshakable, a heart unconquerable, a will unyielding. Consider a ruler who does not react to threats. The aggressor expects resistance, expects fear, expects submission. Instead, he finds a calculated pause, a steady gaze, a refusal to be drawn into drama. The aggressor falters. The advantage shifts. The world bends subtly, not to coercion but to mastery over self. And mastery over self requires observation. The cold strategist watches humanity like a chessboard. He sees who desires, who fears, who manipulates, who envies. He notes patterns, learns tendencies, and positions himself accordingly. In a room of chaos, he is the axis around which the world revolves, not because he demands it, but because he does not need to demand it. His presence is felt not in loud proclamations, but in the subtle acknowledgement that he is untouchable, unshakable, unyielding. Let us examine temptation. Most men succumb because they care too deeply about pleasure. They chase indulgence, seek comfort, and surrender to impulse. The Machiavellian understands that true power is not in indulgence but in control over desire. He experiences, yes, but never loses himself. He eats when necessary, rests when necessary, engages when necessary, and withholds when necessary. By caring only where it serves him, he transforms desire from a master into a servant. And consider pain. Life delivers it without invitation. Loss, rejection, failure, they are inevitable. The untrained man collapses, cries, and blames. The trained strategist observes, learns, and adapts. Pain is data, not a verdict. Discomfort is a teacher, not a jailer. And by not caring about the indignities or setbacks that would unhinge others, he fortifies himself. Every trial endured without surrender is another layer of armor, another demonstration of sovereignty. Even relationships require this mastery. Most people give themselves fully, expecting reciprocity, only to be crushed when reality diverges from expectation. The cold strategist gives selectively. He invests where it matters, withdraws where it does not, and does so without anguish. In love, in friendship, in partnership, he remains present without attachment, engaged without surrender. This detachment does not destroy bonds. It preserves them, for he cannot be manipulated, nor can he betray out of desperation. History rewards the cold. Leaders, warriors, visionaries, they all exhibit this principle. Alexander, who pressed on despite exhaustion. Genghis Khan, who conquered without attachment to sentiment. Churchill, who weathered storms with resolve. All mastered the art of selective concern. They cared only where it elevated them, and in this they became untouchable. And the lesson is clear. Care selectively, act deliberately, observe constantly, respond only with precision. Let the weak burn with envy, rage, and fear. Let them collapse under the weight of their attachments. You who have learned not to care excessively, rise above, untethered, sovereign, unstoppable. The world may try to provoke, deceive, insult, or entice you. It may attempt to bend you with desire or break you with loss. But when you have mastered the art of detachment, none of it touches you. You walk unshaken, unmoved, unconquered. Now, we reach the pinnacle of the cold art of not caring, the point at which detachment becomes dominion. By now, you understand that emotion is leverage wielded by the unwise, that attachment is a trap, and that precision replaces reaction. But mastery is more than absence of care. It is the ability to transform indifference into influence, to make your presence felt without demanding it, to let the world bend subtly to your will while appearing untouched. Observe the world around you. Those who grasp at attention, who plead for validation, who react with fury or despair, live in perpetual instability. They are storm-driven ships, tossed by every wave, at the mercy of every wind. The man who does not care is a lighthouse, immovable, impervious, guiding not because he seeks to guide, but because his presence imposes itself naturally. Indifference is not apathy. It is gravity. Even when confronted by insult, betrayal, or injustice, he remains unmoved. A neighbor may spread rumors. A colleague may seek to undermine. A friend may betray. The ordinary response is outrage, confrontation, entanglement. The Machiavellian pauses, observes, and decides. Does this situation merit attention, or will ignoring it yield greater power? The moment you realize that inaction is often the most potent action, you step into a realm inaccessible to the impulsive. The world expects fire, you offer ice, and in that, you dominate. Consider the strategic withdrawal. Most see retreat as weakness, but the man who does not care knows it as a tool. by withdrawing from conflict, by removing access, by silently disengaging, he forces the other to confront their own miscalculation. The offender expects reaction, craves engagement, depends on acknowledgement. When none arrives, the unprepared are unbalanced. You do not strike. You do not punish. You simply exist in a different plane, untouchable, sovereign, and observed. Silence is your ally. When criticized, when mocked, when undermined, do not answer immediately. Let the words echo in the minds of those who spoke them. Do not attempt to clarify, defend, or justify. Let your composed absence speak louder than any argument. People instinctively seek resolution. When none is offered, they are left to wrestle with the gap between expectation and reality. And in this vacuum, power shifts quietly, invisibly, irreversibly. Even affection, even love, is governed by this principle. Most people surrender to desire, pouring themselves into others in the hope of reciprocation. The Machiavellian invests selectively. His attention is not a commodity freely given. It is a tool, a resource, a measure of value. To seek to please others is to relinquish control. To withhold until it is strategic is to assert it. The one who does not care excessively becomes magnetic precisely because his approval is scarce, his engagement deliberate, his presence prized. Think now of ambition. Most people tie their identity to titles, possessions, or status. They care about recognition, about applause, about being remembered. The strategist understands that these are distractions, that power lies not in visibility but in sovereignty. To care too much about reputation is to be ruled by the opinions of the weak. To care too little is to fade into irrelevance. The mastery is in selective care, knowing what to prioritize, where to invest energy, and what to leave unclaimed. By doing so, you operate above the petty conflicts of those obsessed with attention. Even loss becomes a tool. A man loses wealth, prestige, or favor. Most despair, react, and fracture under the weight. The cold strategist treats loss as data, as a lesson, as an opportunity. He absorbs it, analyzes it, and converts it into leverage. Loss cannot touch him because he does not attach his value to external circumstances. His power is internal, sovereign, and immutable. Those who would seek to harm him are met not with anger but with calm calculation. They cannot anticipate his next move because his next move is dictated by strategy, not by emotion. Observe human weakness, for it is everywhere. People crave acknowledgement, fear isolation, and seek validation. These weaknesses are levers. They are windows into behavior. By not caring, by appearing unconcerned, you create a void that others attempt to fill. They test, they probe, they manipulate. And in this, the man who has mastered detachment gains insight. He learns without suffering. He observes without engagement. He positions himself above the fray. Every insult becomes intelligence. Every slight becomes a guidepost. Every provocation becomes an opportunity to demonstrate mastery through absence. Consider the arena of competition. In business, in love, in politics, the desperate are visible, their strategies transparent, their weaknesses apparent. The indifferent competitor operates unseen. He moves without noise, strikes without drama, achieves without announcement. Others react to him, but he does not react to them. By not caring, he becomes the standard against which all measure themselves, not the other way around. Indifference becomes his weapon, invisibility becomes his shield, and sovereignty becomes his domain. And yet, this mastery is not cruelty. The cold strategist does not harm out of malice, does not act from vindictiveness. He operates from clarity, from awareness, from the understanding that attachment is vulnerability and detachment is strength. Those who would provoke him are not destroyed. They are neutralized. Those who seek to manipulate him are not punished. They are disarmed. The power lies not in action but in presence, not in fury but in foresight, not in reaction but in restraint. Even time is an ally. The man who does not care understands that everything unfolds according to its own rhythm. He does not rush, he does not chase, he does not clutch desperately at moments. He moves when the conditions are right, strikes when leverage is maximized, and withdraws when unnecessary. Others are frantic, impatient, and impulsive. He is deliberate, patient, and sovereign. In the long view, he is untouchable, and in the short view, he is unshakable. Finally, let us speak of transformation. The moment you stop caring excessively, the moment you master detachment, the world changes in your perception. Relationships, conflicts, ambitions, losses, and victories, all are reframed. They no longer dictate your value. They are data points, opportunities, instruments. The ordinary man is moved by circumstance. The strategist moves circumstances. He is not defined by what happens to him, but by how he positions himself within what happens. And in this, he becomes untouchable. Every slight, every insult, every disappointment becomes fuel for elevation. Every provocation becomes a test of patience. Every challenge a demonstration of sovereignty. By not caring, by mastering detachment, by observing, waiting, and acting only with precision, you ascend beyond the reach of chaos, beyond the grasp of manipulation, beyond the dominion of human frailty. You walk through the world untethered, sovereign, and unshakable, and the very act of your calm reshapes the universe around you. The culmination of this art is simple in principle but profound in effect. You do not fight to prove your worth. You do not argue to justify your value. You do not plead to secure your place. You rise. You endure. You observe. You act only when it serves strategy. The world will test you endlessly, but the one who masters the cold art of not caring remains unmoved, untouchable, and ultimately unstoppable. So, when life confronts you with betrayal, provocation, insult, or desire, remember this: power is not in reaction, influence is not in attachment, and mastery is not in the noise. True dominion lies in the silent, sovereign command of your own mind. Care selectively, act deliberately, observe constantly, and let the world bend subtly to your will. Not because you demand it, but because you refuse to be moved by anything that does not serve your purpose. This is the ultimate expression of Machiavellian mastery, the cold art of not caring, and the path to becoming untouchable.